Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Heal Yourself Naturally. I am Nicole Dromi, your host. I'm here with Chava Levy and Sarah Woods Kender. Today, we are going to be speaking about pain management. In every aspect, we'll be talking about emotionally, how to support you with herbs, how to support you, and then different types of healing methods, not just herbal methods. I know that we all have some firsthand experiences that we can talk about as well. So I just want to jump straight into it. We have a huge opioid, problem in the U.S., and that first and foremost starts with people who have, foregone some surgeries or are in pain and are taking pharmaceutical medication. And then it becomes, it stops working, it becomes an addiction, and then people go into the harder stuff. So we want to help you avoid that. If you are experiencing any type of pain, what you can do to dwindle off of those medications and essentially live a clearer life, because those pain medications affect everything around you, from your family and friends, your work life, your mental and emotional stability, your physical being. So we want to help you throughout. So that's why we also said it's a lot about emotional support too, pain management, because people who live in pain, it's a lot. It takes a toll on you. It takes a toll on the people around you as well. So we want to really help you with things that you can do naturally. And that's what the show is all about, is helping you naturally. So let's jump straight into it. I want to talk about, so, pain. We can talk about essentially broken bones, surgeries, pain from different diseases and stuff like that. But there's so many aspects of this that I want to just maybe cover some good herbs for relaxation and that help with pain. Because, to dive deep into each one of these topics, we could do number of shows on it, because
Right.
there's so many ways that you can get pain, physical pain, to be in physical pain. So we can't give an example of each one of these things now. So let's just break it down to overall pain management. Sarah, let's hear some of your favorite herbs and relaxation methods. Some nervine herbs that help with nerves and pain, and let's go from there.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right, Nicole. It's such a huge topic, and we could certainly go down the wormhole of each issues people could have with pain. It
Right.
probably is the number one thing that, I mean, I feel like I always say that. This is the number one thing I deal with at the shop, but it really it's up there with like insomnia and menopause, you know.
Right.
And
Everybody's in pain.
everybody's in pain. Everybody has some kind of pain,
Right.
whether it's physical pain or whether it's emotional pain or whether
Right.
it's both or yeah, so
Physical usually brings on emotional.
right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm all about that. And I just
Right.
find that, when we talk about pain and everyone has different thresholds of pain, right?
Right. Oh
And
yeah, I
I
know that.
feel like that's like it's a physiological thing, but I also feel like that is part of the emotional part of pain. And the people who tend to be the ones that suffer more with pain are the ones I feel like they feel more disconnected from from people. They are more disconnected in a way to the earth, to their environment, to their people. And loneliness. I think people who are lonely tend to be more in pain, right? So
So
anyway,
they focus more on the pain, right? Is that what you're
right.
trying to say?
Well, I
Yeah.
think that's what it is, right? I mean,
Right.
um, barring the whole actual physiological issues and thresholds that people have with pain.
Right.
But so as far as where nervines are concerned, so nervines, a classification of herbs that's very large. You can have stimulating nervines, you can have nervines that kind of are in the middle. They're not stimulating, they're not calming, and then we have calming herbs.
Calming. Yeah.
the tonic nervines, the calming nervines, and the stimulating nervines.
Right. Mhm.
So we're going to go more toward, I would say, tonic nervines, and I would obviously say calming nervines.
Right.
And the calming nervines can be slightly calming, or they can be put you out, knock you out, and I want to go to sleep, hypnotic.
Right. Right.
So, there's a ton of them. And I'd have to probably say that the one herb that I can think of right now is kava. What kava does is it is one of the herbs that I use for pain management, specifically kava with other ones. But I would say kava is going to help calm the nerve portion of it in a way that addresses the anxiety that people feel when they're in pain. Because sometimes that anxiousness, what's worse, the pain or the anxiousness around the pain and the anxiousness of, oh my God, I have to actually go somewhere and do something. And I'm going to be even in more pain when I do that. So I love kava. And kava is a root of a plant that grows, more in the subtropical to tropical regions. Everyone has their favorite region. I believe it's New Zealand or one of those places that has the best kava. People ask me this all the time. I'm like, I don't know. My purveyors are great at sourcing herbs. I don't always do all the research on all the herbs, but I do know there's different types of kava, and kava is all the rage right now, I guess. Um, because kava bars are opening and people are trying to find alternatives to alcohol and that euphoria you get with alcohol. So kava bars are springing up, and what kava does is it really just kind of relaxes you. And that's what I like. And I obviously use it for people with straight up anxiety and nervousness in general, but kava is one of the nervines that I love to use for pain management. Um, the other one, I mean, I guess I'll name two or three or whatever, but the other two, I'll name two more.
And
Um,
where does kava land on that spectrum?
Kava is more, it's an anxiolytic. So I use it to help people fall asleep with other herbs, but it's not a hypnotic. Like you can take it during the day and
Right.
it will take the edge off of anxiousness. It's a lot like CBD or cannabis. I should say cannabis because cannabis is CBD or THC or whatever. We oftentimes um, separate the hemp with the THC kind of cannabis, but it's all cannabis.
Right. Right.
So cannabis is a different classification. Than like a than kava. I mean, it's a little bit different, but it's useful during the day, is my point. And then the other herbs that I would use that might make you sleepy would be valerian root, which is really nice for pain, and California poppy, which is really nice for pain. So if you're in pain, say during the day, you just want to take the edge off of some of the pain, and we're talking musculoskeletal pain. Say
Right.
you just had surgery, say you have a bum knee or something like that.
Right.
Um, you could do like say you're going to do an extract. You do most of the bottle would be kava, and then you could put your hypnotics in there a little bit. So when you take it and dose it, you're not going to fall asleep during the day,
Right.
you know? So that's one way to approach it. So with those nervines. But then we have all, and I guess we can just leave that for the next go around, but then we have all the anti-inflammatories,
Right.
right? So we'll
Because,
keep
like I
it in
said, there's
nervine.
so many different types of pain, but one of the biggest things with pain, like you mentioned, is the anxiety that you get within feeling the first signs of a flare, right?
Yeah.
And let's say you're in the middle of something or about to go somewhere and do something, you're already getting into your head, and how is this going to affect my mood, my ability to move and do things? And so, anxiety you get anxious about doing things when you're someone that lives in pain. So that's kind of why I wanted to mention the nervines first in order to calm down those anxieties, right? Because you know, speaking firsthand, someone that had chronic back pain for most of my life, when it got very bad, when the flares starting, it was like, oh, how am I going to move right now? Or how am I going to do my work? Or when I was a college student and I was on drafting tables all day, I was like, how am I going to complete this project? And then just so much anxiety came with it. And so that's why I kind of wanted to touch that topic first, because when you're anxious about it, you reach for that prescription
Can
medication.
I ask you a question about the pain you experienced?
Yeah.
So was that postural because you were leaning over a table, or when you were in
No,
college?
it came before, and it was from car accidents. That's how
Okay,
it
because I was
started.
going to ask you, because a lot of times when people suffer from major back pain, it's because they don't feel supported in their life.
Well, that could have also been it, because that was a huge support system of my family's life. So it was all, a lot of it was on me emotionally. So that was also something. But I did, after different types of therapies, after years of seeing a chiropractor and trying acupuncture and weekly massages and whatnot, finally, years ago, Hava suggested to me a different form of chiropractor that is called Nuka, and that is actually what fixed me. And for the first time in years and years and years, I'm talking about over 12 years, I don't have back pain anymore. So,
Love it.
and that was like 6 years ago when I started, and I don't have back pain anymore, which is amazing because for years I had um fire sensations in my shoulders and tingling, and I couldn't move, and I was always, and I did yoga for a good 10 years. So it wasn't that my posture was suffering. Like, I tried to reverse my daily actions, like being over a drafting table and working on a computer or sitting, but I also exercise in a way where I was stretching my body, my posture was good, but at the end of the day my spine was not straight. So that affected my nerves, and reoccurring car accidents on one side specifically, being hit by oncoming traffic more than once, not being my fault at all. But regardless, those car accidents just knocked me out every single time, and it just became worse and worse. But the point is that the anxiety that came with having to deal with it. And I was, even before getting into natural medicine or going the natural way with my life, I I avoided those things because I knew how addictive they can become from, knee surgery that I had, different breaks and stuff, and just always reaching for that pill, and how out of it I was when I was on medication. So I avoided it altogether by not taking anything, but I was just always miserable because I was in pain. And with misery, other things come. So that's why I wanted first and foremost to
Yeah,
talk about
I love it.
anxiety, right?
Yeah.
um Hava, do you have any other nervines that you want to suggest that you favor? Because I know, a couple weeks ago we talked about also sleeping, and some of these were mentioned.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, hops are very good too, and hops is it's wonderful, and it's also okay. So, like Sarah said, there is so many different, you know,
Categories.
there is a sedative herbs. There is like so it's like so divided. But if
Right.
I would just add on top what Sarah said, I would just add hops.
Yeah.
The hops are absolutely incredible, and they're also really relaxing, and they help to sleep well. Now and a skull cap, the skull
Yeah,
cap
yeah.
is also very
Yeah.
good, and it really helps with to relax the mind, and obviously you can. And I think that what we didn't mention is that we can use the tinctures not only internally, but we can also apply them over the areas because they are
Right.
alcohol based, many of them. So we can use them internally and externally, and I would even add some essential oils into it. So let's say when I was before, let's say, my surgery, people who go through before the surgery, they have this fear. And many times they get the certain medications that puts them to sleep or whatever. But before then, this fear, right? So I used kava, and kava actually, what I did found that kava helped, I would say, calm the suffering before the surgery. So but it takes time. So people need to know. And let's say if you have a dental issues, or you go somewhere where you're afraid or you don't feel comfortable, kava is very good. And then you can also apply kava over your neck or the areas that you feel the tension, right? And the same thing can come with a skull cap. It's absolutely wonderful. But you need to know that all these herbs takes time. Many people expect a fast result. They think, I took it, in a minute I'm gonna feel no more pain. It doesn't work this way. It also depends on the absorption, on your digestion, and how open you are to receive the medicine. There's so much more, right? But using internally and externally, and using hops and kava and a skull cap. Now, for some people, valerian is good. For some people, is not. Right? Some people get just the smell the valerian. It's like, whoop, like
Well,
I
for some
cannot
people,
handle valerian.
it's a stimulant.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But for some people, like I'm telling, like from my experience, what I've seen, many people in Russia, they have a valerian in their pockets. It's like something that they just go everywhere. Oh, I valerianka. Everyone say that.
They
It's
must
like
smell
so
good.
common. I know it's like so common. Here is less common than in Europe. But in Europe, like I see people like, oh, they hear something, they put like few drops of valerian. It's like, so maybe because of that, I like feel a little bit far
Yeah, you've
away.
mentioned this before, that valerian root is like
Yeah, the
commonly
skull
carried
capsule is
around.
very good. And
Yeah.
we and there is one herb that I'm working with that I always was far away from it. And thanks to Sarah, and I called you, Sarah, to tell you that the CBD. And I always like so against, like forget about this. Like, I'm not the person with the CBD. I am not interested to work with this because they overuse this herb. You never know where they grow. But if you have someone a unique like Sarah who makes the best medicine, then I put full trust in CBD. And I want to tell you that I'm using this on the babies with eczema, the babies who cannot sleep. I use this on some males in their 40s who have problem falling asleep. And the CBD works very interesting. Now, I cannot say it because I didn't try yet myself. So that's a big problem because everything, I'm a guinea pig. I try on myself, then I push forward. But
Yeah.
this is
But
CBD.
we have seen, over time in history that, there are great results with CBD. And I love the mention of using it internally and externally, right? So
100%.
applying these specific herbs that were mentioned right now, not only internally and giving time for it to, for your body to process it correctly. So I would say generally 3 days to a week, you should start feeling the results of whatever herb you're trying. But adding the external factor, applying it externally, will definitely heighten the results that you're looking for, right?
And
For
I
sure.
would add into it taking a bath with the herbs. So you can take some chamomile, you can take some magnesium into it, you can take some lavender, let's say, and just put yourself into the bath and let the herbs infuse it and go through your skin, because we say we eat, drink, and poop from the skin. So it's so important that we also do this through our skin. And many
Right.
people, we want to break this thing that just take through the mouth. There is so much more. Let's say when I'm before the class, and if I'm get very like anxious and I'm like worry, and I run to the bathroom every few minutes. So at that time, I would just take, let's say, some essential oils and would just rub them if I'm, or that's what I would do at that minute. So you have to learn how to work
with what you have
with
on hand
what
where
you
you are.
have on
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you have those basic herbs like Sarah mentioned, the kava, and I mentioned hops and CBD and the skullcap and valerian, learn to also implement those in any
Right.
different manners.
And for anybody who doesn't have a tub, we've spoken about in the past about using like a pedicure tub and soaking your feet in those herbs too, because your feet, will soak it up the most.
Yeah,
In your body. Your pores are open there and your body will receive it well there. And then we can also obviously talk into reflexology and how your foot is connected to your whole body. But we'll get into all of that today.
that's later.
I really want to touch a lot of things today. So we talked about the herbal component of, anxiety reducing herbs. And I know that there, well, are there really herbs that are for pain, like to take away pain?
Yes.
Yes. Also inflammation, to reduce inflammation, which also comes into that territory. So let's mention a couple of each for
Yeah.
anti-inflammatory herbs and some herbs for specific just for pain.
Yeah. So just to touch on too, the over-the-counter medications or the opioids and the other pain relievers that are more heavy duty, habit
Right.
forming, they all work either they're reducing the inflammation or they're cutting off the brain signals to feel pain. So,
Feel pain, yeah.
and this is basic, this is how herbs work too. And
Yeah.
that's why we liked, well, I do. I mean, I can't speak for Hava. I do know you use formulations. So this is why we like to combine herbs that will touch on different aspects of, have different actions in the body. And then when you put them all together, it's this beautiful like synergy that goes on.
Right.
So the other nervine I want to mention too is St. John's wort. You have to be
Okay.
careful with that one with if you're on certain meds, but it's a wonderful nervine. It's specific for nerve pain and damage. So that's another one you can use topically as well. But so as far as like anti-inflammatories, which there's so many. Oh my
Yeah.
God, there's so many.
There's so many. I
I
know
can
that. Yeah.
name, and I know you said a couple, but I can name cat's
Like your
claw,
favorite go-to, your
cat,
go-to that you would put in a formula.
yeah, cat's claw,
Yeah.
white willow, frankincense, and cat's claw, white willow, frankincense, and turmeric for some people. Some other people can't digest it very well and it hurts their stomach. So that one I'm careful of. And of course there's cayenne, but I know Java's going to mention cayenne. But like those are that's like in tincture form. Frankincense you can't use in tea because it's a resin,
Yeah.
but frankincense it's typically people burn it because it
Right.
smells really nice. You can get frankincense essential oil and put it in things. That's wonderful. I put that in a pain cream that I make. I also put the frankincense extract in there. Frankincense is a COX-2 inhibitor. COX-2 is an inflammation response in your
Yes.
body to pain. When you shut that down, you stop the pain response. The cat's claw white willow, frankincense is an anti-inflammatory too, but the cat's claw and white willow are amazing anti-inflammatories for the joints.
Yes.
I use those for basic arthritis pain, Lyme pain. People who have Lyme have joint pain. And anybody with knee pain, going through surgery, these anti-inflammatories are amazing. So those are my four favorite, and I'm sure I can think of more, but four favorite off the top of my head. Anti-inflammatories that I reach for probably more than any others for most people. And again, that's extract. I do a lot of teas, and these things can be done in tea. You really have to be drinking the tea all day. Tea is usually more gentle than an extract. An extract, I would probably have you dose throughout the day as well. The tea needs to be drunk throughout the day. Um, Again, you can't put frankincense in there, but cat's claw and white willow make a wonderful tea. And then, you can use these herbs topically in baths. or just right on the pain if you have an extract. And so, yeah.
And what about something that, shuts off pain receptors to the brain?
So that would be your hypnotics. Those are your cat's claw. I mean, California poppy or Jamaican dogwood is another one that you may or may not have heard of. That's one.
Yes.
But one that people say kind of separates themselves from the pain is ghost pipe.
Yeah.
And so ghost pipe is is a it's Monotropa uniflora, and it is not a mushroom, but it looks like a mushroom, and it grows in the temperate forest. I have it all over my property. And I make a pretty weak tincture with it, and it turns the alcohol black. If you look up ghost pipe, it actually looks like
Yeah, it looks like
wine in the
yeah.
brain. And so we know, so plants, the doctrine of signatures suggests, right, that plants will tell you what they do in the body. This one is screaming what it does in the body. And I love the flower essence too. Amazing. But if people could just turn off their
Microphones.
microphones, I can do that from here too.
Yeah.
Um, But anyway, people say it like separates themselves from the pain. So it's like the pain is like over here somewhere.
Floating.
They can tell it's there. So ghost pipe, I think, would be the best example. But other, the things like valerian, skullcap, to a degree, California poppy, Jamaican dogwood, those are like the hypnotics that really get into the central nervous system.
Right.
In the brain stem.
In the brain. Yeah. Okay, Pava, what are some of your anti-inflammatories?
Well, I was thinking while Sarah was speaking, and it's very interesting because I'm using a devil's claw for arthritis.
Yeah.
I have a couple cases of people who are severely in pain because of arthritis. I feel so bad for these people, and they basically live off this simple over-counter medications. And the problem that I always say that, I mean, how we can say it's a pain, right? So I always tell my people that, live with pain. And like, I'm not saying like the emergency pains, but the people who are suffering a chronic pain, basically they are living with this pain.
Right.
And when they take something over the counter, what it does basically, it cuts you off, like you said, Sarah. And basically you're no longer connected to your body, and then you do certain things because now you no longer feel the pain. So now I can put my leg this way and that way, and after about 3-4 hours, when the medication wears off, the person basically gets
Put more strain on the issue.
Right. And then he basically, in his mind, he thinks, oh, but that was so good that I didn't feel the pain. And then he comes back to the same vicious cycle. And I always say to these people is live with pain, because the pain is what will guide you toward your redemption. Can we say that? Isn't that
You can say
nice?
whatever you want, Hava.
I mean, I don't know if
No,
that's
I agree in a sense because
in
if you,
English,
yeah,
can we say that? Well,
Sure.
because
Yeah.
I hear these people and I'm like, I mean, we all have a pain here, there, and that, but you have those people that their hands are like this and they
Yeah.
cannot write, they cannot hold. What the hell you can say to these people? But I do want to tell them that you still, while your soul lives inside, you can fix yourself by living and understanding that this is your hand, this is nobody else's hand, this is yours. Touch, start breaking.
Yeah, no, I want to talk.
calcification.
I'm going to talk
I
about
know, but what
physical
I'm trying to
things.
say is that the devil's claw is the one that I'm using for arthritis. Yeah. And obviously I do suggest CBD as well. And I'm trying now to incorporate the devil's claw with CBD. Another herb that we and it's from Matthew Wood now. I'm going to say that. He gave a wonderful recipe of 2 parts of agrimony and 1 part of Solomon seal. And you can make this into the tincture, or you can make this into the oil. And if you do that, then it basically works like a cannabis do. That's what he suggested in one of his classes. Now, I did make this in a tincture form. I didn't have a chance to strain it just to see how it works. But agrimony, it's a very unique herb,
Yeah, it's the deer
and
in the headlight herb is
yeah,
what we
and I was thinking, and Solomon seal as well. And the Solomon seal, it's also incredible. And I think it's like also kind of magical herbs, right? They call it. But I think that it really helps to calm the mind, and maybe combination of this also will work as CBD. Instead, let's say taking CBD, a combination of this. And then another herb that was jumping on in my head is something that most people are suffering when they have issues with their knees, and they have problems with to repairing the tissues. The gotu kola is another one that really helps. You either application over the areas or by taking internally.
Which herb?
Gotu kola.
Hmm.
Gotu kola, right? That's how we
go to cola. Yeah.
gotu kola, right? So, and I found people who went through major accidents or went through the surgery, and instead to being stuck on medications, they can take gotu kola, and that helps to restore. And so someone broke their hand, and I'm sorry, and being dependent on it, it's basically absolutely incredible. Hopefully I didn't lose you all.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, so that's what I'm
Anything else anti-inflammatory in specific?
well, I think the Sarah mentioned all of them. It's just well, all of them. They're also well, turmeric, right? The
Right.
turmeric that many people are know, but I usually, like yesterday, I spoke with someone and they're like, "Oh, should I take this turmeric for the inflammation for this?" And I suggest no, because this is a curcumin. This is just a tiny part from a wide range of this unique turmeric root. So why you just take a part? Why not to shred some turmeric and add into your soups or make some tea, and
Right.
or make some juice. So
So
turmeric
use
is
it in a
wonderful.
wholesome state, you're saying.
I suggested turmeric in the wholesome sense than taking because some people can take too much, or some people, and it's like that's also the way Sarah mentioned. It's
Yeah,
not
and
always good for every. Yeah.
turmeric, people don't understand turmeric too is a it can thin your blood, especially if you're taking it with Advil or any like ibuprofens and stuff.
Yeah.
You have to be careful with turmeric, and people don't realize that it is a blood thinner and synergistically will work with like medications to
Yeah.
thin your blood too much. I mean, it's not turmeric itself isn't going to just thin your blood so much that it's going to just fall out of your body, but if you start using drugs with it,
Which
yeah,
most people they do. See, the
yeah,
problem is that most people they prepare this cocktail of this medicine and some herbs, and they think they're doing a favor by taking all that, and usually that's not a good idea,
Right. Our
and
goal is to try to reduce
and
the
Kava
amount of
forgot about the
pharmaceutical.
cayenne. Oh.
So I
see,
was,
I thought you were going to mention
segueing
it.
it into it. But I want to specifically talk about, okay, in terms of cayenne, we know its ability to reduce inflammation, but also increase circulation. And going back to, I think it was even our first podcast we ever did about circulation, and about how the body suffers when there's not circulation or enough oxygen or blood flowing to a certain area in the body. And that is specifically correct when we have pain somewhere because of the inflammation that's caused around that certain body part. And so we're not receiving enough flow into that specific area. And so cayenne is extremely helpful to either take internally and it'll travel to your body, do it exactly where it needs to go. And then in addition to externally to rub into that area to reduce the soreness, reduce the pain, reduce inflammation. So it kind of will do all of that together. Now, let's talk about some other methods like not herbal remedies, because I think we covered a good amount of herbs
Isn't
today
ginger? We forgot some
Yeah,
ginger.
well, I was gonna mention that, but yeah.
Yeah.
as an anti-inflammatory. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I think, yeah.
Great.
Ginger and turmeric together with cayenne. But again, that's like a very common thing that a lot of people know. And maybe you didn't, so we'll mention it again. But we wanted to talk about the not so common herbs and things that people don't know about. But let's talk about different remedies or different techniques and exercises that one can do. We did mention baths, which I think is incredible when you are in pain, or soaking in hot water or hot and cold. Like Kava likes to mention a lot about hydrotherapy to increase circulation into the area so that it can properly heal.
Clap. Good clap.
Clapping, yeah.
Yeah.
Clapping.
But slow
What does that
clapping.
do? What does that do essentially? It brings circulation. Let's talk about clapping a little bit. Hava, can you take over?
Oh my goodness.
Clap
Okay,
for us,
that's
Hava.
my
Come on.
oh, that's my favorite topic. What you talk like I'm like well, since I've discovered this topic about the clapping, it's kind of solved a lot of my problems, because many times you
Did
speak
you
with
clap some
people.
sense into yourself, Hava?
I'm
Like
trying, not yet there.
externally and internal problems. Like, who else are you
No, but see,
clapping?
well, see, what I'm trying is basically bring simplicity to everyone, because I always think about myself when I was young mom, like you have a kids and you can like you go to the doctor, or you go to healer or whoever, and then they give you this 100 different remedies to take. They give you all these medications to take, and then you have to buy also, let's say at that time, manuka honey, which was like 60, $70, and then you do this and that. And basically, but if you cannot afford this, and we're talking for simple people who cannot afford now spending $1,000, and then you hear this many holistic doctors say, well, but what would you do if you would really have the problem? You would spend the money. But some people, they don't have the money, and they don't have a time driving all the way 2 hours to get some adjustments. So we do have to find the tools that are doable for everyone. And that's where the clapping came into the picture. And I'm like, holy cow. Now, basically,
Holy
we
clap.
have, I know, because now we
Sorry.
can bring this simple knowledge to every home, and you don't have to leave your house. You can do it right here at home. And what is clapping is basically bringing a blood flow toward the area where you have the problem. It's all about, by the end, a blood. Blood is a life. And when there is no life, let's say people who are suffering a lot from arthritis or headache, it doesn't matter what. It's about lack of circulation. It's about, and then when the clapping comes into the picture, it's kind of covers the whole entire issue. And that's why I'm so passionate about. And so my idea is to teach people just clap. Now, many people don't understand what the clapping means, so I'll just cover very quickly so that way everyone will understand. So let's say if you have a pain in some sort of area, this is the area where you start clapping. But how you clap by holding your hand like a cupping. It's basically a cupping. It's like a cup. And then let's say you have a pain over here, let's say, and then you start, let's say here or back or whatever. And let's say you start working on this area. Now you clap as your heartbeat. You don't do this. Okay, you do this, then it'll just not gonna do anything. But what you do is you basically start clapping slowly with the heartbeat and by holding your hand like a cup. So what you basically do is you create circulation. Yeah. Now, and you do this for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes. Now, if you can tolerate 20 minutes, that's even better. And what will happen is that suddenly you will start feeling, oh, I have no longer the pain. Why? Because you brought a new blood and you start removing toxins that are sitting inside your inside the area. That why you have pain, blockage, and this blockages comes out. And that's the beauty of it. So people can clap in all areas that even include a prostate for the men's. They basically can up and clap under. Why men's they have problem? Because they're sitting all the time, and they're sitting, they always no blood flow. Obviously they're gonna get a problem. My grandfather is a famous artist, so what he did, he would sit hours and hours, do art, right? So with the time he got a prostate issue, as well as many males, they have the issue. Same thing comes to the female. Oh, we have a problem with our fibroids. Well, why is that? No circulation. No circulation, then we are in problem. So what you do, you start clapping, and you do this slowly. And what happens is that you suddenly start seeing a different, like I've done with the master, I've done clapping over my cardiovascular areas. And I want to tell you that after 10 minutes, it was even less, but whatever, I start seeing red dots over my hand.
Splotchy
That
skin.
shows you that my cardiovascular is so blocked, which is correct. I am very prone to heart problems because from my inherited from my grandmother, and not just that, and emotional status. You combine all that too. So you can clap out this problem just by clapping over meridians that are connected to your heart. So you opening up all this area. And
Right.
it's very, so this is the beauty of it. And I want to really encourage people to try it. And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to teach people, just clap. Don't be afraid from pain. And most people are shy away from pain. No, live with the pain. The pain is what managing you,
Right.
is
A
what
guide.
telling you, oh,
The
go
message.
here. No, don't do it. Go here. Oh, okay, that's good. And then instead of having a medicine through the day, you just do some stretch, and then you send the new blood, and then you see the miracle. So that's the beauty.
And something like clapping, like you said, is also a pain reducer. So it will reduce the pain. And why is that? Because once that circulation in that certain area of your body once it's stagnant and not moving correctly and toxins pile up, you will feel more pain. So the more you work on that area, whether it be by applying herbs topically, internally, and sending circulation to the area, you will reduce the pain and in the long run heal, depending on the issue. Again, right?
People just need to understand. You have these two hands, and you have some herbs from Sarah and Chava, whatever, but you have those hands, and those hands are tools for healing. All what you need is these hands, and that's it. And once you understand that you have this tool, that just a hand, you can create miracles. And it's like, it's some people, it doesn't settle that. What do you mean it's so simple? Well, let me see you clapping over certain area for a half an hour. You'll see the bruises you're gonna get, which usually called sha. But guess what? After this bruise is gone, the healing comes into the picture. So it's just so incredible. You're coughing. What is the cough? Is blockage. Clap. Do this to your children. What we do to the baby when it's just born? We patting in the back. Why? To bring life into it, like to start flow. This is all about. So if you have two hands, and if you don't have two hands, then use two legs. And it doesn't matter, but start using it, because just implementation can create so much change. And another thing, your hands are your test. Something that we don't speak so much. You can test your problems just by touching. I can touch, and I can feel, yo, I have pain here. What does it mean? You have a blockage, my love. And then you go, oh, I have to go to the eye doctor because I don't see so well. Well, you don't see so well because there is nothing flows into your eyes. There is no blood flow. So if you start massaging daily or just doing clapping, guess what will happen? Now the problem is to do it. And most people, they're not willing to do it.
Right.
And that's
And
the hardest
I
part.
do highly recommend for people to go back onto our podcast about circulation, because we talked about in our beginning series, we talked about steps of healing, and we said, first and foremost, lack of circulation brings on issues. And so we talked about different methods of how to bring on circulation into the body. I'll mention again, hydrotherapy is a great method to bring circulation. So hot and cold water alternating from both, as well as light therapy. Light therapy is extremely successful in healing.
Absolutely.
Many different things, and essentially alleviating pain once you heal that area. Sarah, on a Reiki standpoint, what do you, or, I mean, I do want to talk about emotional support, because Kava said, if you don't have hands, use your legs. But I did want to touch up on people living in pain should have emotional support of friends and loved ones, or
100%.
family around. And so, number one thing about someone that's living in chronic life,
Oh,
oh, do you hear me?
Yep.
yes, we hear you.
So acceptance of that life once you're in chronic pain, once you're living, in chronic pain, or even not chronic, whether it be, you know, an accident that occurred, a surgery that has spurred on, anything like that. So having someone that you can touch base with or ask for help. So if you can't get that ointment on a certain part of your back, ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask, because then you'll resort to things like a quick fix, and that quick fix won't be so quick anymore because it won't work. And then that's how we develop such a big, problem with in the pharmaceutical world, and then looking for harder stuff on the streets, which is, that's just how life is. People looking to numb that pain, and then that numbing becomes emotional numbing. So have a support system that you can talk to, and someone that can physically help you do these things, whether it be, helping you with hot, cold, applying certain things, massages. If you can't afford it, someone that can, lend a hand and massage a certain area of your body. Chiropractic work, we forgot to mention, which
Well, I can
helps.
just mention some other things too.
I'd love to, please. I'd love
Yeah.
to hear from
So just to go back a little bit too,
you.
our job as herbalists is to empower people, right? And I think what's been going on in the modern medical model is that people are so willingly giving up their power that they're scared about their own body. They're scared
Right,
they don't know what's going on. And it can start really simply in regards to pain management is stretching.
right,
So barring any major accidents or surgery that could cause someone's pain, stretching is probably the number one thing that I would recommend people do daily, because
right,
most of the pain that I see people deal with is structural, caused by postural issues, poor postures, jobs that make you kind of stand in one place or sit in one place at a time. We're always favoring one side, stretching, getting on the floor and stretching. But you know what I do is I sit in my chair at night and I put my legs out in front of me and I just lean forward. And boy, that really helps stretch the hips, especially women have a lot of stagnation in the hips.
Mm-hmm.
I find, and of course, when we're talking about hips, we're talking about moving forward in our lives. And many of us, especially as we get into our menopausal years, that's a huge stage for us. And moving forward can be hard. So there's your emotional part of hip pain anyway. Knee pain is more of rigidity and being rigid in thought. And when we're talking about the back pain, it's all about support structures in our life, which you've, obviously that segue into having support is really important. Reiki can offer that. The other the other thing besides stretching that people can do, and we're talking about empowering people with their health, right? We're
Right.
talking about not having to rely on people like Hava and me to tell them what to do, to tell them what to take. Drink water.
Yeah.
So, arthritis in general is what I have found for many people, and you can have wear and tear and arthritic being swollen here and there and issues, but for the most part, it's water balance. And that's about supporting the kidneys, drinking enough water. But where Solomon seal comes in, and I love Matt Wood uses Solomon seal and he loves mullein root as well. They help balance the waters in the body and bring water to tendons and ligaments in the bursa, but it also gets water out of the bursa. Because if you have a swollen bursa, what's the bursa? It's the sac of fluid that's around your major joints. If it's tight with water or your cellular fluids, it's going to cause problems. So what's really important too is to make sure you're drinking enough water, not too much, not too little. And then as far as like a therapeutic aspect of it, you want to get some really nice herbs to help support the kidneys.
Right.
And there's your nettle, and this is why nettle leaf comes in, dandelion leaf, but nettle leaf historically has been one of these herbs that when you look it up, it's for rheumatism. Rheumatism a lot of times is gout, but it can also just be aches and pains from being either dehydrated or not drinking enough water.
Right.
So nettle can help balance the waters, but be sure you're drinking water as well throughout the day. So those are the non like, two of the main things people can do in their own life is to stretch and to make sure you're hydrated.
Right.
Um, and that's empowering in and of itself.
Yeah.
And so
100%.
to talk more about the Reiki, just to touch on that for a second,
Yeah.
Reiki comes in and, most people know what Reiki is, but Reiki is an energetic modality of healing. It's an ancient practice from Tibet. I learned the Usui tradition, which is that Tibetan tradition. There's many different types of Reiki. I do the Usui. And so, what Reiki can do for people who are in pain is just not only build connections and help them feel supported, um, but Reiki can actually help move energy out of the body that is no longer serving that person. So, trauma, I find people who have a lot of pain, especially in the back, they have a lot of trauma. They're storing it all in their back. Trauma meaning either sexual trauma, like abusive situations, whether there's an alcoholic parent or an alcoholic spouse or, an abusive alcoholic spouse. I mean, it's trauma that lives there. So what Reiki can bring to the table, and literally, you lay on a table, is peace of mind for that person and helping move out the trauma.
Right. Which, if you're dealing with pain, and added weight on you physically and emotionally, right?
Totally.
Because emotional pain can really translate into physical pain as well.
And just the fact of, because I do hands-on Reiki, but anybody that comes in the shop that I know and have a relationship with, I'm giving them a hug. It's touch.
Right.
It's people lacking that connection. It's not only connection here, but it's connection here.
Right.
That's that
And like
somatic.
Hava mentioned, even if we have physical connection with other human beings, like our children, our loved ones, our partners, we lack that physical connection with ourselves.
Totally.
And that's the biggest connection that we're lacking. And throughout many of our podcasts, we've spoken many times about being in touch with yourself so that, like Kava mentioned today, live with the pain, because the pain is going to guide you on what specific needs, what your body needs, right? But also being physically touching yourself, as we mentioned many times, that's something that most of us do not do, unless we're rubbing out a kink or whatever for a second. But like, how did that kink get there, and how did it get so big? Like, we need to touch ourselves more in a healing way, you
And you
know?
want to hear something really interesting too, is that many times people who have low thresholds for pain and they're in pain all the time from one thing, or if it's not one thing, it's another, they don't like to be touched. They don't
Mhm.
want to be touched. They don't want to get a massage. They don't like people touching them. Isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can right off the bat think of people that I know that are like that. And I have such a high tolerance for pain, and I'm a hugger.
I'm a
So
hugger, but I mean,
I'm a
I
hugger,
birthed
and
a
I
couple
have
of
the
babies, no
biggest
drugs.
tolerance for
Yeah.
pain. But also, women have a huge pain tolerance in compared to men. Now, all women vary, but we
Right.
just have, we have that God-given ability to handle pain
To
in a different way.
compartmentalize pain. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For childbearing reasons or whatever that God
Right.
gave us.
Right.
So we have that. Our pain threshold is much higher. But yeah, being honest with yourself on how much it really hurts. Do I really need to take this pain medication? Or can I do all the things that we mentioned today on Heal Yourself Naturally to help with that pain? And yes, putting it in like we've mentioned, also these herbs are not quick acting in most cases. Some of the herbs will be quick acting, but again, when trying out any herbal remedies, we always suggest to do it over a period of time to see if it is really working for you. Not expect for the first day, first dose that you are taking it for it to work magically. It's not how herbs work. They work over a period of time. And I'd like to mention anybody who wants support from our two healers here. You can always reach out to them through their social medias or our social media that we have for Heal Yourself Naturally via Facebook, or just head to their sites, havawellness.com, sarahsherbs.com, and you can touch base there. Also see a lot of their remedies on there and things that we have mentioned today. Let's go into, oh, thanks, Sarah, for putting that on our chat. We have one question on the chat. Do you want to take over, Sarah, for that question?
Is this from last time?
No,
The
it's from
chat.
today. Thank you so much for all your valuable information. Are there any contradictions or precautions about skull cap? Specifically looking for something for my husband to calm his mind and too many thoughts.
Yeah, I was just commenting because I see the chat from last time, which is
Oh,
it kind of freaked me
weird.
out.
I don't see that, but
Weird.
That
I
must be
guess
because
because
it's
you're admin.
yeah. So I just gotta make sure I check that. Contradiction precautions for skull cap. No, I don't think skull cap. Skull cap is a remedy for people who are on benzodiazepines, and it helps you from withdrawal symptoms. So, in general, I don't really like to mix these these hypnotics, these sedative herbs with any other sedatives. I don't mix like and like because there'll be a synergistic,
Yeah.
thing.
It'll enhance.
So
Yeah.
don't take your benzos or you take your opioids with any herbal remedies that will do the same thing. So that would be the only contraindication. I don't see any contraindications with blood thinners. Um, Typical anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen, that's totally fine. You can take skullcap. Turmeric is another story, but skullcap should be fine with like over-the-counter NSAIDs. And that's all I can think of. SSRI should be fine. Antidepressants. I don't think there's any
Are you
contraindication.
speaking about specifically also any additional herbs to calm the minor thoughts? We did mention that. So
Blue
valerian root
vervain,
is good. Yeah.
Actually, the
Vervain.
passion flower.
passion
Passion
flower.
flower is
Yeah.
very good for
And
people who are
and
overthinking.
Yeah, we mentioned this on our sleeping podcast, or Why Don't I Sleep? So, also a lot of mind calming things or things to calm the thoughts, especially for people who are having trouble sleeping, but they work overall, right? If we're someone who is anxious or has too many thoughts. So, I would love for our listeners today to go back in our podcasts. And I think it's two back from this one. So not the one previous, the one before that. And we talked about helping with sleep, and it has a lot to do about calming the mind. And yeah,
Yeah, blue
so you'll get a
vervain.
lot of it.
Yeah, the blue vervain is my favorite for that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you all for being here today. Such a wonderful podcast. I think we covered a lot. Again, sorry if we didn't get into any kind of specific body parts of pain, pain management or whatnot, because we could have gone into, like Sarah said, a big, big black hole and gotten sucked into so much of the body. But we wanted you to look at it as an overall picture. Your body, even though one part of your body is in pain, we treat it as a whole. And so these are different herbs and things and methods that you can use in order to heal specific areas. Obviously, if there is anything major, like a surgery that you went through, or an illness or disease that you are suffering from, then we do want you to get specific help from an herbalist. And again, I will always suggest Hava and Sarah, they do have online consultations that you can do, and like over the phone or via Zoom consultations. And we do want to help you every step of the way. So it's always great to work with someone, especially in the beginning. And then once you've taken over and taken charge, you can implement things on your own. But yeah, thank you all today for listening to us. Do we have anything closing from either one of you that you want to talk about quickly before we close,
My
before we
my
sign off?
last one was more of a closing. Like, really, our job is here to kind of show you the path, and I really try to instill in my clients and customers and students that it's not the best business model, but I'm not really in this for the money. So it's really wonderful to teach people how to take care of themselves, and we need to come back to that because there's so much fear out there. The fear porn is crazy. There's a lot of health fear out there right now because viruses are the new terrorist. So we need to just double down and know what to use to take care of ourselves. And that's my job and Hava's job, I think, and I know you agree with me, Hava, is
Right.
100%.
show you the path. We give you your toolbox. We show you how to
Shed
use
the fear.
it. Yeah.
And the beauty of it that I will add into the Sarah, it's, many things that we teach is we teach also ourselves. So I just wanted to tell you that I'm on this mission to teach myself, and I'm taking you with me on that mission.
I love
Basically,
that
this
so
is
much.
how I feel because I want to feel like that I'm trying to take care of myself. I'm trying to fix myself because you know we all struggling, we all have issues, we all, but the idea is that to show you, hey, I know we're all struggling, but let's maybe let's struggle because this is what I found. Look what there is here.
Yeah.
Look, there is a Sarah is telling you, look, you have this.
Right.
That's the beauty of it. And the beauty is that, and this is the hardest, is to really do it. And that's what I found the hardest, because each time we found something way to avoid that, not to do it, here a new, something new approach, but not to do what you already know. And that's what I'm saying. I wish people just knew how to use a garlic in 100 ways. You can heal so many, right? I wish you knew just the one herb, and that herb will already guide you toward the next. It's just, the point is real application. Where we are really stuck is that we know, but we are not doing. And that's the hardest, and that's why we create these communities, to basically help each other on this journey.
Yes.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
how I
You're
feel. I
here.
feel it. I'm on a
Absolutely.
journey. Join me. and
Exactly. And
help on
something
my way.
about our wonderful healers, and I will say this, you know, 1,000 times throughout all of the podcasts, is that these methods or remedies that they are giving you, if they have not tried it on their own, on themselves, they have tried it over of, you know, hundreds of clients and seen results. And so they're confident in giving you their opinion. And, you know, it's up to you to apply it into your life. And we hope that you do, because you know, natural medicine and natural healing is a change of life. So you can't only be you know, consuming different herbs, but also you have to change a lot of things in your life in order to go in that path of being natural and doing things naturally. And so we want to guide you. That's why each one of our episodes is geared differently with a different discussion. Now, we don't have our topic for our next episode yet, because we are coming up with a complete package of things on how to discuss. Like today, pain. We could have done 10 episodes on pain, and so that's kind of what we're hoping to do next. Is talk
Yes.
about one big picture topic, and then break it down into different classes and series and podcasts, so that you learn more. And we're going to dive deeper, because I feel like so far we've touched so many things, but now we want you guys, our viewers, to dive deep with us and learn how to implement these certain herbs or methods more clearly, so that if you do apply them and you finally take charge of your life, we want you to have the exact tools and knowledge in order to do so. So again, thank you all for listening.
And thank you so much, Nicole, for you know, knowing where to guide us.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Nicole.
We should
Really.
not
Yeah,
go
yeah.
off
Well,
the
you know, the experts
Thank
are
you.
here. The experts are here with the knowledge. I'm just here to guide them on how to speak, like where to go
Thank
with this
you.
topic.
Thank you.
But I love what we do. I really appreciate the community that we've built. I absolutely love the message that we are sending to people. And that's our goal, is to wake up more individuals and give them, like Sarah said, take the reins in your own life, and we want to be your guides, and so that you can one day guide yourself.
Yeah.
So thank you all.
Stop giving up your
Wonderful seeing you.
power. Yes.
Yeah, empower you. Thank you all for listening to us at Heal Yourself Naturally. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.